Hi there, Agile friends. Get ready for the World Tour of Agile at the Agile Online Summit 2023. You can join us from October 24th to 26th for a global showcase of cutting-edge Agile practices and insights. Join us at agileonlinesummit.com. This year, we will be featuring some of the best work done around the world and world-class keynotes. You can check all of that at agileonlinesummit.com. But the best part is that your ticket is on us. That's right, it's free to attend and immerse yourself in the world of Agile excellence. Don't miss out on this opportunity to level up your skills and network with peers and industry experts. Mark your calendars and secure your spot at AOS 23 today by visiting agileonlinesummit.com. So get your free ticket or opt for the full digital pass that lets you keep all the conference videos forever and organize, why not, Agile learning sessions at work. You can get the full digital access at agileonlinesummit.com. I'll see you in the conference floor. Hello, everybody. Welcome to one more week of the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast. And this week, joining us from Florida is Seye Kuyinu. Hey, Seye, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Seye has been a Scrum Master for about a decade. He first connected to Agile frustrated with the lack of adequate communication that is, I think, the bane of traditional complex projects. And I totally agree with that statement. He finds people and interactions over processes and tools cannot be overstated. So we definitely need more of that. And while seeing that everything is a fractal, this is a very interesting statement. He says our individual, team, organization, and social challenges are the very same. The solution in every layer is the same, an understanding of oneness. And I'm sure we'll dig a lot into what this means for you, Seye. But take a minute, tell us a bit about yourself and how did you end up becoming a Scrum Master?
Before I even go into that, I want to, first of all, thank you for this opportunity to be on the podcast, to share with you and, should I say, our listeners, our collective passion. And if I would, come to a conclusion, I would say that that's it. It's this collective passion is a transformation in the way that we see, in the way we perceive and deliver value. Not just within the context of a corporate structure, but within the world at large, to actual people who have actual lives, who have friends, who have families, who love tacos or who love pasta or amala, as it is in Nigeria. I also want to thank you, Vasco, also for this podcast. I can't count how many times that I've listened to this podcast, heard some of the experiences other Agilists have had, and have validated my own experiences and made me feel like I'm not crazy. So thank you so much for putting this platform together.
You're most welcome.
Yeah. So to go to your question about how I got in here to become a Scrum Master, probably 20 years ago, almost 20 years ago, actually, I used to be the head of web development for a firm in Nigeria. And what was really interesting was how, obviously, I had to work hand in hand with a project manager. And it almost seemed like we had conflicting priorities. We start a project, jump into another project, move into this other project because our customer or our client is pissed off because we didn't finish this feature. And then all of that started to affect myself and the development teams. So in a way, I had to think about there has to be a better way to manage projects. And around that time, I got introduced to, back then it was something called Take Back Your Life with Microsoft Outlook that had, have you heard about it?
No, I have no idea.
Yeah, so what I found out eventually was it was a corporate version of Getting Things Done by David Allen. But what she did was, or the creator of this Take Back Your Life was try to put David Allen's methodologies and everything into a more corporate structure. And that for me was the very first time that I realized there's really nothing like a work-life balance. It's just life. Then how do you then structure your life, and how do you prioritize things in your life? And you find out, oh, okay, yes, you have to prioritize some things within a work context. You know, you have to prioritize some things within a personal, maybe home context. You have to prioritize things that have to do with even your biology, like, you know, drinking water. You're going to have to find ways to prioritize those things within any of those contexts. So I was blown away by getting things done, and that led me into Holacracy, which was also something created by David Allen. And I started seeing how powerful organizing systems were, and it was so fascinating seeing how in nature, in biology, in right there in front of us is self-organization seems to be something that nature already relates to. And somehow that obviously got me into understanding Agile and exploring the frameworks in Agile. Scrum, obviously, I'd been a more methodologies kind of person. So Scrum looked like the really, really interesting fit. And at that time, my background is in software development. So I started seeing how I could move from more of, you know, writing code to actually working with teams and organizing work. So that kind of led me to this interesting path.
Absolutely. And we'll dive into that journey right away, because the first question, of course, Seye, is tell us a story of a moment where you, as a Scrum Master, you did your best, but at that time, as it so often happens, the best just wasn't good enough. Walk us through that story, you know, from the beginning to the end. We'll dive into the takeaways and the conclusions later, but walk us through that story.
Yeah, so I feel like earlier in my career as a software developer, one of the things that I mostly struggled with was seeing the difference between the real life world and things like this Scrum guide. So obviously I came into this field, you know, reading all the articles that I could, you know, getting my Scrum Master certification, and understanding the heart of, or should I say, the techniques and the lingo. And then I came into the corporate world, and oh my God, it was totally different. It was like, okay, Scrum meetings are 15 minutes. So, you know, we should have a 15-minute meeting, not a 1-hour meeting. And I found out that for the most of my experience, what I was doing was fighting against the grain. And so
can you share an example of that?
Yeah.
Like,
so
how did it feel for you to fight against the grain?
Yeah. So I'll give you a very, very interesting scenario. Once again, like this scenario I was giving, I came into this organization. They decided they were going to adopt Agile, however that was, and a lot of the meetings that they had were these long meetings. Daily stand-ups were like 1 hour. Sprint plannings were this meeting where the teams were, or the team members were headbutting. Everybody had different ideas. And, you know, I'm coming in here with, I came into these scenarios thinking, okay, I'm just going to tell them what to do. And that was one situation that just blew up in my face.
So tell us, how did that happen?
Yeah, so like with the first one, which was a daily stand-up, I come into the daily stand-up and tell these teams or these team members that, you know, we've been talking too much. You know, this is a 1-hour meeting. Let's make it 15 minutes. And then I set a clock, and then even the first person hasn't finished, and it's already 30 minutes. And I'm here trying to get people to slow down or to, you know, respect the time box. And that just wasn't working, because people had things to say. People had their own interpretations of what the meetings were set up to do. People had their own interpretation of how, you know, the conflict or the challenges the projects had, and I didn't even have enough context to be able to come in there to, understand the process, understand their pain points, and understand their goals. All I was doing was coming in there to dictate what the Scrum guy was. And in those situations, I found out that I got relegated to the background because people wanted solutions. They didn't want people to tell them what to do. And for you to bring solutions in, you obviously have to be able to learn and listen to their pain points. So that wrapped up some of my initial experience.
Yeah, that sounds very, very familiar. We've heard similar stories here on the podcast, and it kind of reminds me of this idea that I very often these days kind of emphasize in my talks and also in my coaching with other Scrum Masters, is that we really, when we go in, we really should negotiate what are we there to do with the team. We should build a coaching contract with the team, or coaching agreement, as I call it, right? Let's write down what are the goals we have and how do we know if we're achieving those goals, right? And the team writes that down with us, and then we can always go back to that and say, hey, here's what you guys said back then. Is this still valid? Is this the right thing to focus on?
Yes.
And when we don't take the time to make that agreement, to agree with the team, and sometimes it's with the product owner, not necessarily just with the team. But when we don't take that time, then we assume what the team wants, right? Like you in that story, like, okay, the team wants Scrum, so I'll give them Scrum, and Scrum isn't what they're doing, right?
Yes. It's very interesting how I feel like this what you just articulated is one of the ways that I see who has had enough experience with this line of work, because oftentimes people want to come in there and tell people what to do, and it never works. I've never seen that work, even outside the context of even Agile, telling people what to do without you, first of all, understanding, being there on ground to see things the way they see things. If you don't do that, you lose influence. At the end of the day.
And not only influence. I mean, you might create conflict, right? Because some people in the team might be with you, and some people in the team might be against you, and that brings conflict, right? And it kind of takes the focus away, which is not always bad, but it takes the focus away from what we are trying to do, which is to deliver software more reliably, increase the quality, respond to customer needs faster, whatever that is, right? It takes the focus away from that and puts the focus on the process, which everybody loves to hate, right? Like, just say the word process and people's eyes start rolling. That was a great story. Thank you for sharing that, Seye.
You're welcome.
Monday is about what we learn from our obstacles and our failures. But tomorrow is Team Tuesday here on the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast. We explore teams and their journeys, the habits they develop that threaten their performance, how each of our guests helped their teams evolve, and the one key lesson they learned from that experience. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.